Welcome to Nerd Nation News. I am your coffee-loving host, Doug Benver. Today's story about Greek tragedy, and it was brought to you by our very own agent in the field, Stephen. Rumor has it he's still in the field. I think he was left field. But anyway, as he is absent, I will be taking the role of narrating. It is commonly believed that in the 5th and 4th centuries of BC, is that before Cheez-Its? Oh, before Christ. But those are still before Cheez-Its. In the 5th and 4th centuries BC, the Greeks developed many theatrical techniques that are still in use to this day. Kind of interesting to think about. I wonder if amazing mustaches were part of that. The origins of theater are somewhat tossed around. Just like this microphone. See what I mean? It's often tossed around, but it is commonly believed that due to the lack of a written language, ancient tribes would have to perform things they would want to teach to their children, like rituals or festivals. They would perform theater. The Greeks were the most influential in this theatrical teaching. I did that thing with my hands on purpose. Theatrics. They also developed the use of speech to stir one's imagination, just like I, uncoincidentally, am stirring this coffee, which leads me to my next point. They used objects to display action and form a connection to their audience. Like I form a connection to this coffee. Another key thing that the Greeks did was to develop two different parts of drama, tragedy and comedy. If you feel tragedy, this coffee fell on the floor. A difference between both tragedy and comedy is that tragedy has no common way to capture its audience attention. It can vary every time. Whereas comedy always uses laughter. This is according to John Russell Brown in the Oxford Illustrated History of the Theatre. They also built props that looked similar to things the Athenians would see in their day-to-day lives. That would help them form a connection with the characters. For instance, if I was to pull out a lightsaber, I hope the editor put some lightsaber thing here, would you be able to connect with me? No, because you don't have a real lightsaber. However, when I pull out my coffee cup, can you relate to me? Maybe not, because you probably don't have this one, but you still have a coffee cup. If I pull out my Nintendo Switch and start playing, you are able to connect, because you likely own one. And of course, we cannot stop this show without talking about the most influential figures in Greek theater, the stars of the show. That was not a pun, that was intended, but pun! The three most prominent figures are Aeschylus, Sophocles, and Euripides. Euripides was known for questioning traditional values and myths. However, because of this, he was often accused of undermining the basis of society. This is brought to us by John Russell Brown in the History of the Theatre. However, because of his nature of questioning things, the unifying element in most of his plays was thought. You would have to think about the plays, what he was saying, what he meant. Whereas Sophocles focused on his characters, developing them as they went along. For instance, the Luke trying to learn the Force. That would be a Sophocles move. He meets his friends Han Solo, Chewbacca, he learns the Force, he meets Yoda, he runs from Yoda. Honestly, I would too. He was a bit creepy. He would also make his characters complex psychologically and well-motivated. His protagonists were noble, but not faultless. Think about Spider-Man. Aeschylus, we've got a ton of stuff on him. All of his plays, with the exception of the Persians, were parts of trilogies. He invented the 3-part story. He also redid how casting was done. Originally, the author was the actor. Aeschylus had the idea of bringing another person on stage to interact. This had such a positive effect that by 468, though the number of characters you have in your play was unlimited, they increased the number of actors you could have to 3. Why put a limit on it? Don't ask me. Payroll, I guess. In conclusion, the Greeks have played a major part in what we now call cinema. I am your host, Doug Benver. Steven is still in left field, although I believe he is now making his way to home plate. I will see you all next time, and enjoy Christmas, I guess. I mean, yeah, Christmas. Enjoy Christmas. We all have a Christmas special coming up soon, and I will replace my chocolate with... I'll replace my coffee with hot chocolate. Did I forget to mention that the Greeks also invented costumes?